Municipal Meeting of January 10th, 2022. Everybody, if you would please remember to silence your electronic devices. And we have with us tonight Lori Hollingsworth, who is the new city clerk, who will be coming to us all the way from El Campo, Texas. And she will be taking our former clerk's place. Marie Walter will miss her, but we know we're in good hands with Lori. And we should also have a shout out to Lori's son today. Lori's son Luke apparently is not with us, but he's watching us on TV. So watch what we do and be very nice to his mother. And today we have an invocation by Leah Molyneux from the Central Florida Free Thought Community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Lowndes, council members, staff, and the community for the opportunity to offer opening words for this evening's meeting. On behalf of the city, I thank you and your staff for everyone's hard work. There's only so much time available to us in life, and the fact that you have invested so much of yours in service to your community is remarkable. We have weathered many challenges in the recent past. When we have a new year, there's a special energy and an optimism and a renewed hope for bettering our future together. Let us tap into this renewed positivity as we begin today's meeting. Let us consider the importance of the decisions we made, knowing that there will be new challenges coming our way of which we are not even aware. May the year ahead provide this council with the ability to confront the challenges and to do so in the best interests of our exceptional city here in the Sunshine State. Together, let's embody the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, "The good neighbor looks beyond the external accidents and discerns those inner qualities that make all of us human and therefore family." Finally, let us incline our ears towards reason, apply our heart to understanding, and seek knowledge that we can use to find common ground among the citizens for the betterment of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Molyneux. Thank you for those thoughtful words. Thanks for doing that tonight. If everybody would please join me to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a couple presentations, and there's the podium today. First presentation this evening is retirement resolution for Martin Wolfman. I'd like to read the resolution and I'll present it to Mr. Wolfman if he can come join me at the podium. All right, we have a resolution for Mr. Wolfman, who's been with us a while. Whereas Battalion Fire Chief Martin Wolfman has served the city of Maitland with dignity, loyalty, honor, and outstanding ability as a member of the Maitland Fire Rescue Department for the past 25 years. And whereas Martin was born and raised in Orlando, Florida, he and his wife Stephanie of 30 years have 2 children, Lainey and Tanner. Martin is a devoted husband and father. And whereas Martin began his career with the city of Maitland in 1996 as a firefighter paramedic. Martin was promoted to fire engineer in 2000, lieutenant in 2007, and battalion chief in 2012. And whereas Martin was instrumental in the growth of the department from 1 to 2 fire stations, and with that growth came many technology hurdles, personnel and logistics issues that he helped the department to overcome. Martin continued to use his talents in the area throughout his career and was nicknamed Chief's go-to person of the year for staffs and IT help. Without Martin's input, the department would have been unsuccessful when we applied for and attained the Commission on Accreditation of Ambulance Services, CAAS, agency accreditation to the Commission on Fire Accreditation International, CFAI, and ISO Level 1 status. And whereas Martin, through his unwavering sense of duty, has instilled values of pride, honor, and integrity in all members of the organization, and earned the respect and admiration of firefighters, city council, and city staff who had the good fortune to work with him for many years. Now therefore be resolved that I, John P. Lowndes, and members of the City Council, on behalf of the residents and employees of the city, express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to Battalion Fire Chief Martin Wolfman for his faithful and devoted service to our city. Further, the City Council, on behalf of the residents and employees of the city, express best wishes and continued good health and prosperity to Battalion Fire Chief Martin Wolfman during his retirement years. Dated this 10th day of January 2022. All right. Mark, would you like to say a few words? We have an open podium here.
I want to thank the crew for coming out today. It's been a pleasure working here for 25 years. I really enjoyed it and made a lot of friends and some good times, and was able to help a bunch of people out over the years and save a few lives here and there, and just generally good memories. So thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Hey, what part of Orlando did you grow up in?
Conway?
Conway? Yes, sir. Good local boy. I love him.
You know, it's been a good career when you can say at the end of it, well, I saved a few lives here and there.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
right. Maybe we all had that kind of career. We also had another presentation, although this is for a retirement resolution for Richard Crandall. Mr. Crandall is unable to attend tonight's meeting, so we're not going to do that this evening, but we just want to keep in our thoughts. Thank you. Glad they didn't turn off their electronic devices when I asked them. Their job, I'll leave them on. Okay, so we have a couple of public hearings tonight, a couple of second readings from ordinances that we passed on from the first reading. So let's go to the first public hearing. Lauren, would you please read the title of the pension fund composition?
An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 4, Pensions and Retirement, Division 4, Police Officers and Firefighters of the City Code, amending Section 2-124, Pension Trust Fund created, requirements for membership, operation of fund, subsection 3, Board of Trustees, members, terms of office, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Sharon, would you please introduce the item?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So this item was actually introduced for first reading in December 13th, so it's been a while, been about a month. This came to us from the Police Fire Pension Board. Their last quarterly meeting of September 8th, 2021. They forwarded this to the city for their consideration. It was unanimously recommended by the board to allow either the police chief or fire chief to appoint a designee to serve on the board in their place. They must be a present or past member of the plan and can be reappointed or appointed to a 4-year term, and they can be removed by the respective chief if at any time the chief wishes to remove the designee. So this does have no financial impact. There's a statement from the actuary to that effect. And it doesn't change the general makeup of the board. It will still be 3 police representatives, 3 fire representatives, 2 citizens, and the finance director by title.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Sharon or with that? We have none. Let's open the public hearing. Would anybody from the public like to comment on this proposed ordinance? Seeing none, let's close the public hearing. Any further discussion? If not,
Mayor, I will move the pension fund composition ordinance.
I will second.
okay. We have a motion, a second, for the requested action. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilmember Paul Harrison,
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas,
Aye.
Councilmember Weil, and Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay, and our next ordinance deals with water, sewer, and sewage disposal. Ms. Hollingsworth, would you please read the title?
An ordinance of the City of Maitland amending Chapter 20, Water, Sewers, and Sewer Disposal, Article 1 in general of the City Code, amending Section 20-2, connection fees, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, would you introduce this item, please?
Yes, Mayor, this was also introduced in December 13th for first reading. In 2018, we adopted the equivalent residential unit, or ERU, calculations used by Altamont Springs for sewer capacity. As you know, we do not have a sewer treatment plant, so we purchase it wholesale from Altamont, as we have for years. And to be consistent with the calculations, we adopted the way they calculate sewer, so that, because we pass the fees through to Altamont. When it was adopted, there were 2 sentences in there that actually went back to the section on water. And in our code, we do not calculate water on an ERU basis. So those are in conflict with the way we calculate water. We do not have to be consistent with Altamont on how we calculate water, only sewer. So this removes those 2 sentences that shouldn't have been included when we adopted it. And what it does is it provides a credit, which we don't provide. So that's something that Altamont does. We do not do that. And so we're recommending that you adopt the ordinance and remove those 2 sentences.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Sharon? All right, let's open the public hearing on this ordinance. Anybody from the public would like to address us on this ordinance? Now's your time. Seeing none, let's close the public hearing. And if there's no further discussion, the motion be in order.
Mayor, I will move the water, sewers, and sewage disposal ordinance.
We have a motion.
I will second.
Okay, I believe this is also for the requested action. Ms. Hollywood, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Paul Harrison,
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas,
Aye.
Councilmember Weil,
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
and Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay, we've adopted those 2 ordinances. The old business section of the agenda, City Manager, do you have any old business to report?
Do not have anything at this time.
Okay. Well, then let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items on the consent agenda they would like to remove or call for later discussion? All right, seeing none. Let's go to the public. Does anybody from the public have any comment on anything on the consent agenda? Seeing none, let's close the public period and the motion be in order.
Mayor, I move the consent agenda.
You have a motion?
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Thomas,
Aye.
Councilmember Weil,
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilmember Paul Harrison, and Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. All right, moving now, let's go into the public period. This is the portion of the agenda where anybody who has a comment or would like to address the city council on anything that's not part of the agenda, now's the time. Would anybody like to? No. What? We got a couple. We got to take it.
I'm Danielle Thomas, the Executive Director of our Art and History Museums in Maitland. And I just want to give an update on our winter exhibitions, which are opening soon. In the History Museum, we'll be opening up Florida Byways, Jules Andre Smith and the Bach Fellows. This opens on Friday, January 21st. And this exhibition is focused around a travel piece that Andre Smith wrote in 1951 for Fourth Times magazine, talking about the sandy byways and back roads that surrounded Maitland at that time. So it'll feature Andre Smith's artwork, some of the local areas, a lot of Eatonville images. And in the gallery, we'll be showing the recollections of Doretha Hare Truesdale, Alfred Hare, and the Florida Highwaymen. This opens with an evening reception on Friday, February 4th. And Doretha Hare Truesdale is the widow of Alfred Hare, who's regarded as the founder of the Highwayman movement. And so the exhibition is guided by her memories, which includes traveling down from Virginia, meeting Alfred Hare for the first time, the gestation of the movement within her household, and then the aftermath that was left after Alfred Hare died at the age of 29. So the exhibition contains work by 17 Highwayman artists and accumulates in a video excerpt of an interview that we conducted with Doretha Hare on site in December of this past year. So we hope you all can make it. The opening night will feature music by Big Ron Betts, who's a local blues musician, and then food by Burgers and Boots, which is a vegan soul food truck. So it should be a lot of fun. We hope that you all can join us.
Great.
Nice.
Amazing. Good to know.
Evening, everybody. Dale McDonald, 108 Angelo Court. Just reporting on a lively, well-attended Planning and Zoning Commission meeting this past Thursday that was concerning primarily the small-scale comp plan amendment that has been proposed for Lot 1 in Maitland Concourse North. The residents of Lake Faith Villas and other concerned residents there. And lively discussion. I'm sure you folks will hear more about it soon enough, but it was an interesting philosophical discussion and try to get as much technical as possible. And heard from the attorneys for the applicants as well as the city staff. So I don't know when they will, in fact, I don't know that they will actually hear that again. They did take votes on both the comp plan provision about eliminating the prohibition on drive-throughs, and as well as taking a vote regarding the PD amendment, so that would similarly be required. So interesting discussion that I'm sure, again, you folks will hear more about soon enough. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Go SEC.
I think we got this one in the bag.
Yes, sir. All right. Okay, well, anybody else in the public like to be heard this evening? So you know, let's close the public period, and we have a decision to make on appointments to the Lakes Advisory Board. Lauren, please introduce that item.
For the Lakes Advisory Board appointments, the terms of Juliet Tamari and Lee Hale on the Lakes Advisory Board expired on January 4th, 2022. Both Mrs. Tamari and Mr. Hale are eligible and wish to be considered for reappointment. The following applicants reflect this board as their first choice: Juliet Tamari and Lee Hale. A second choice for Carl Hanlon. Copies of their appointments are in the forms are in the packet, and council is requested to make 2 appointments effective January 4th, 2022, each for 3-year terms.
Okay. So we have 3 candidates for 2 slots. And I guess we typically do these to see if we can get a first, a second, and a third on anybody. So let's open it up for nomination.
Yeah, I would move to nominate or appoint Mr. Hale for Lakes Advisory Board.
Amen.
Sounds good to me. Third.
Did you consent?
Yes, second from Councilmember Wild, third from Councilmember Thomas. So, Mr. Hale, congratulations. Back on. And so let's have a nomination for the second seat.
I'll make the same nomination for Juliet Emery.
Third.
Okay. We got those, first, second, and third. That makes things easy. Well, congratulations to both the board members who have one more term left. So glad they're going to carry their experience forward. So excellent. Discussion items. So we have, that's really the end of our decision items tonight. We have a discussion item which comes from the Sustainability Advisory Board and regarding the, I think, water quality rights. Sharon, could you introduce that item, please?
Yes, Mayor. So there are 3 items associated with this legislative report. There's a draft ordinance which hopefully was clear that has not been reviewed by the city attorney. That was just drafted and brought to you to determine if you want to send it forward for his review. There's a memo from the city attorney that actually was to the Charter Review Committee when they were looking at the same issue. And then there is the letter from the board, the recommendation itself, in which they expressed why they would like you to consider this as opposed to an ordinance or a resolution or some other form. They would like you to consider it as a charter amendment. We've missed the deadline for 22, so it's not time sensitive, so that's why it's on as a discussion item. It would be teed up for next March, would be the next time it could get on the ballot, unless we have some other a referendum that goes and it could piggyback with that. So if you're familiar with the Orange County amendment, it did pass by 89% of the voters, which is pretty amazing to get 89% of people to agree to anything. But it was then subsequently, it was actually preempted before it got to the ballot, but it was on the ballot. So it was preempted by the state legislature and in the Clean Waterways Act. And so it's currently in litigation. So it's working through that, but at this point it's preempted. It's in the city's, it's in the county's charter, which applies to us, but it's been preempted. And it is in litigation, and if you want more, I'm sure Cliff knows more. But what the board has come forward with is hopefully to sort of come up to that line, but not actually cross over the preemption line. And so this, as drafted, again, not reviewed by Cliff yet, does not give the water the rights. It actually gives the citizens the right to the clean water. And so that's sort of an attempt to stay away from the language in Florida statutes. And again, without him having a chance to review it, I don't know if it goes over that line into a preemption or not. But before we send it off for his review and efforts, I wanted to make sure, and the board wanted to make sure this is something you want to move forward with.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. I think everybody's had a chance to read the Sustainability Board's letter to us and also the issue. Does anybody have any comments about how we move forward on this? And if we want to move it on to in the form of a charter amendment at some point, or put it to the ballot to see if folks want to put it on our charter. It's going to, as Sharon said, we're not in a hurry on this one, but we should consider it and think about the next cycle for the charter if we're interested in doing that.
Well, I think it's an interesting proposal, and I think that the well-intentioned nature behind it makes sense, especially coming out of our sustainability board. I do have an immediate concern about the fact that there is a preemption element that we should be concerned about. There's also pending litigation. And I don't know that we would want to necessarily move forward at this point on something that is going to drag us into a situation where we are going to have to defend ourselves later on because we're moving ahead of where the curve is.
I was going to ask Cliff, does that agree? I see you nodding your head over there. Just I'd like to hear from what your thoughts are.
Well, it's hard to have thoughts about something you haven't read, but if you didn't know, our office is the one who drafted the Orange County one because I was specifically the general counsel for the Orange County Charter Review. I will tell you without hesitation, it was done against our advice. But when you're tasked with trying to come up with something that will be constitutional, and the policy is someone else's decision to make, that's what we try to do. I'm really not sure whether we succeeded, and I probably won't know until or unless preemption lawsuit, which I think, my opinion, is a loser. I think the preemption is a winner. I think the state legislature meant what it said, and I think that the attempt to somehow overcome that preemption, God, I wish it would happen, but if it did, there's a whole lot of other preemptions I'd love to challenge that would be significantly more important than this one, for a lot of reasons, firearms, for example. But have not read it or how the committee approached it. I do not know where they came up with something that would allow me to say, okay, well, maybe this makes sense. So everything I could tell you about what the counties does is in the vacuum of only knowing what the counties does and not really what these folks came up with. But as a kind of broad framework of that, it empowered individuals to bring lawsuits in the name of water bodies within Orange County. And if they felt like, based on whatever evidence they might show, that a waterway had been degraded or would be degraded by development. And of course, there are a numerous number of problems that arise from that consideration. And one of those is degraded from what and to be restored to what. So we talked a lot about, for example, Lake Apopka. If I'm on the shore of Lake Apopka and I happen to drop a gallon of oil in Lake Apopka, am I now responsible for the cleanup of the entire lake to its pre-1 gallon of oil condition, a topic they never were able to figure out how to deal with? Or is it just I pay some amount of fine, or because what the goal was for them is we'll restore it to its pre-pollution or degradation, and based on what metric, what do you measure from? And so there was an infinite number of issues like this that we went round and round on. But candidly, the folks that wanted this amendment, it did not matter practicality. None of that was considered. Because no matter what you said, it was, we're going to put it on and it's going to pass. And they were right. It did pass. Even after the preemption, which happened specifically, uniquely, to the Orange County Charter provision by name. If you read the actual preemption, it talks about what the Orange County Charter Review Commission was working on at the time specifically, because it went from our meetings directly to Tallahassee. Would it happen here? I think there's a decent chance that they thought that their preemption already didn't do the job, whatever it says. And the reason for that is fairly straightforward. It is that if you guys are the decision makers, because this is what it would have empowered against the county. If you guys are the decision makers and you approve of some sort of, we don't have that much of an issue here as we used to, but let's suppose that that were the case. Then if someone's opinion was that that would degrade the water body in some fashion, they could sue you and whoever the entity is to stop that. And then, of course, one of the things you know about being involved in development, and again, it depends on how it impacts you and how you see it, is delay kills development. So it's not so much that they would win, maybe they would or wouldn't, the actual lawsuit on the merits, but the mere fact that there is a lawsuit stops things in its tracks. And the reason why, at least in our opinion, not only was it ill-advised legally because of the various metrics that didn't exist and do not exist, but also because there are entities specifically designed to address these things. The argument back when we said, hey, we have the Department of Environmental Regulation and Protection, we have, these other, there's federal crimes, there's a lot of different stuff that's out here. The response we got, which was understandable, but not necessarily something that was going to have a lot of legal legs to it, is you can't trust those guys. They're going to get it wrong. They've been getting it wrong all along, which, I get it, but there's not a perfect solution to every problem. There are a lot of problems for which the solutions will never be perfect, and sadly, I think this is one of them. But everything I just told you is in the vacuum of, I don't know what this committee came up with, so maybe it's an entirely different animal. But that's the reasons why we had the issues with Orange County.
Cliff, what is the posture of the Orange County lawsuit right now?
I did.
Being sued.
I did. Initially, they filed in federal court. I know the lawyer who did it. And within just a couple of months, they were being forced to dismiss their case or be sanctioned because it was there was that much lack of merit to it. Federal courts entered a show cause order, and the crap was about to hit the fan. I do not know, but subsequently I assume that they did something to refile it or file some version of it. I don't know. I can get you the update and find out, because since our work as a charter review council ended in October, we haven't followed any of that stuff.
Who's
But,
the defendant?
the defendant was the state, did they sue the state of Florida? And I think they might have sued the state of Florida. I don't think they sued Orange County. I can't remember.
And I guess I'm asking, so you just, in a theoretical world, if the city council of Maitland were to adopt the ordinance, something like that, what is our rate?
John Miles gets sued.
Well,
Yeah, is there a-
if you adopt it, if the city were to adopt it, then every time you approve a development, which someone thinks, and that's really, unfortunately, kind of the way they put the standard in without the metrics that we're talking about, was if they think it degrades the waterway, that's enough to keep them in the door. And then degrade from what? That's one of the biggest issues I have is from what standard? Do you have a book of, I asked the scientists on the script, I said, if I was to ask you today, what is the standard for fill in the blank? Let's say Lake Jackson. What is it today so we can degrade from what? They didn't have it. Well, we can figure that out. But we need to know now, so we know what degrade means. And then when you say we're going to return it to its original non-degraded state, what's that? For the whole lake? Or just the little, what does that mean?
But we wouldn't be the defendant.
Yes, you would. Because if what's subject to this amendment, if your opinion differs and you approve the development, all they got to do is disagree. That's the issue.
But isn't it the polluter who's the defendant?
Depends on how they drafted that.
So the lawsuit that's still pending, they actually sued the Department of Environmental Protection
Yeah.
for a dredge and fill permit that was issued to a developer in Orange County. So they sued the person who issued the permit that they believe will degrade.
Based on
It's,
this.
yeah, it's
Is
It's
this the
just
one?
another
Cypress
year you
branch.
Approve a development.
Yeah.
Something that's, I mean, the seven, they set it up the same way.
Okay, and so it would look like to me, from the materials we got on this one, the Sustainability Board was using the Seminole County model, and that your office had issued a memo based on the Seminole County model. So is that,
I'm sure they did.
yeah, and so I think that's what I understood to be the discussion really was, you know, I know the Orange County's got their own issue and that thing they litigated, but Seminole County, I guess, came in and did. Is it true that Seminole County is passed?
They did not pass it. They discussed it, they considered it, but then as of November, they did not. They did not.
But that was substantially different from.
Yeah, so
it was
this-
meant to get around the Orange County issue.
Right, so instead of giving the rights to bring it in the name of the lakes, which is what Orange
Right.
County does, this is giving rights to citizens. They have the right to clean water, therefore they can bring an action in their name, or the city could bring an action in our name, should we feel that somebody is violating that citizen's right to clean water. But then it says, establish definitions, rights, remedies, other, I mean, you'd have to have an ordinance that covered, like you said, what is the right, what is the, how would you restore it, what do you bring in this cause, and what are the results. So before we got that far, we just wanted to see if council had interest, and then we can get Cliff in his office to review it. On paper, it seems like it gets around what the state, the state is very specific. You will not give it to non-natural persons. And this is giving it to the citizen of Maitland. So whether you live on the lake or not, if you're a citizzen, you're impacted by it.
So any living environment, I could have filed a lawsuit to stop the Lake Jim project.
Yes.
Because I thought it would be great Lake Jim, even though I had no real interest in Lake Jim.
Yeah,
And I just want to, I don't like the developer, I want to harass him.
This is true, and from a legal concept standpoint, and John will certainly understand this, and Lindsay as well, Mike, and anybody who does litigation understands the issue of standing, right? And standing in cases that involve legislative acts, things that you guys do, or quasi-judicial acts to pass zoning and so forth. In that context, to have standing to challenge it, you have to have more than the impacts that would be felt by the community at large. You have to have special impacts. So in the case like Lake Jim, under the thing that's being proposed, yes, you would have standing, but if it weren't for that, you'd have to be one of the neighbors of the Lake Jim issue, on the lake, or one of the property owners affected directly in a way that's different from somebody who lives in Dominic, for example.
How about if I'm a citizen of Maitland, but I see something, I don't even live on the lake. Let's say there's a car dealer somewhere, and this car dealer is, all the water coming off the car dealership is going straight into a lake and polluting the lake. Could I file that even though I didn't live on there?
Again,
Because I see the problem.
Depending on how they drafted it, the Orange County was based on ongoing approval of development. I cannot remember, without pulling it up and looking at it, whether it actually dealt with individuals who are not trying to approve new development but are polluting on their property, but it would make sense, and perhaps it did. It's just that my mind was so focused on the actions that could be brought against the county for just doing their jobs and approving the way the law requires them to, based on quasi-judicial principles or legislative principles, comp plan amendments or zoning, where they follow the law, they approve the thing, and they end up in a lawsuit. But in theory, the answer is yes, an individual could bring, assuming they set it up this way, could bring an action against some dealership or anything else who they believe was degrading the water. And then, of course, the example I gave of a private property owner doing this, changing his oil, it spills and it goes into the lake. What are we fixing? Are we fixing the shoreline where he's at, or are we fixing?
But it's my understanding you can't, it has to be a corporation, a business, it has to be something bigger than just a single individual, correct?
It depends on what you're asking, because if you're asking about the Orange County deal, the answer is no. In fact, it was all about non-natural citizens, which is why it dealt with corporations, and I forget how it was worded, but that was key. That in water bodies could be sued. You'd have to sue in your own name. You could Lake Apopka, citizens on behalf of Lake Apopka, which made it that Lake Apopka was the plaintiff.
Well, when you're talking about lake names, this is my question. This is one thing I was wondering. So, like, I think in the Orange County one, it names the Econ and maybe that's something else. But I thought it named like it names the bodies, right?
I'm sorry.
It names the bodies and.
Well, that was the name they put on it. Weebor, the Wekiva Econolocachi Bill of Rights. Weebor, W-E-B-O-R. But what the actual text was, all water bodies in Orange County.
So, all water bodies could pertain to storm drains.
Yeah, I think there was I think we had a provision that opted out, like man-made, stuff like that.
Right.
For storm retention and that sort of thing, but pretty much anything else was fair game.
Okay. I was wondering if, was that something we were going to have to go and say, are we going to have to put all 21 of our lakes, name all 21 of the lakes on this?
Well, if you put it on the ballot, then it's whatever they drafted.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put it on the ballot, doesn't mean it won't get there, because they could always start a citizen's petition. And so, at the end of the day, the unique situation in Orange County that does not exist here is that the Charter Review Commission of Orange County is completely independent from the body. The body has to fund it. It's in their charter. They have to pay for it, but they don't have to like what that commission does. And so if you have the balance of power in favor of doing things that maybe don't make a lot of legal sense, they can nevertheless get it on the ballot, and they did. And that's why it couldn't get off the ballot even after preemption, because Orange County probably would have said, well, take it off. But Orange County had no authority, because the Orange County Charter Review is completely independent. They're paid for by the county, but they can do whatever they want.
My last question. Our lakes management team here, they're out. We had a little issue, I think, last year about somebody who was concerned about what we were spraying over at, I think, at one of our parks. And could somebody possibly come and say, listen, you guys are spraying this and this, I think it's harmful to the waterway, could they sue us?
Sure.
Or would we be protected because our water management team, our lakes management team is certified in the chemicals they use?
It's 100% dependent on what the committee is presenting to be reviewed by our office, which has not been reviewed. But in the Orange County case, the answer would be yes. And in terms of applying local knowledge, and having been in this city for a long time, we had a hydrilla outbreak here years ago, Sharon probably remembers, and I forget the chemical that you can put on the lake to try to get that down, because all the citizens around the lake, we can't drive our boat through here, it's all getting wrapped around the propeller, blah, 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 blah. And so we got somebody who said, this is how you deal with it. But if you were impacted as a citizen who said, yeah, just let the hydrilla go, it's natural, it should happen, well, then you could be sued. At least under the Orange County proposal, you could be. I don't know what this is.
Well, I'm not ready to go here yet. I'm not ready to spend much money on legal fees.
Oh, come on.
How's the man supposed to make a living?
This is one of those things that sounds great, but then when we get into the nitty-gritty, I mean, we put that dock up there like Minnehaha Park, and there were people saying it would cause erosion and pollution, which is ridiculous, but they can make a claim. And so, I just don't want to. I don't see a need to jump in here at this thing.
I would ask that maybe sustainability watches what goes on with this. I know that lawsuit of that 100-acre wetlands is going to be coming up in the next couple months, and then I think this even goes, am I right, is this even got a chance to go to the state for a vote, like at the end of the year or something? So maybe we sit back and watch what happens.
So you're saying there's a chance? Oh, the answer is there's always a chance for something, but I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
But I would suggest we, just monitor what's going on and revisit it at a later date.
Well, if you all would indulge me, see that Mr. Walsh is in the audience, and he's the member of the Sustainability Board. Maybe he can enlighten us, fill in a couple of gaps for us, if we give him a 3 minute.
We also have Mr. Hale and Amy over there, the Salt Lakes Advisory Board, are all professionals, so.
I think Mark spends more than 6 months a year outside of Florida.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's a legal resident.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of that last
I'm going to
trip.
miss you, Mr. Thompson. Mark Walsh, 430 North Lakes, Sealy Drive. As you know, I spent 20 years on the Lakes Advisory Board and as the chair of your sustainability. In my career, I've never seen 89% approval on the charter amendment. And it falls in line with the survey we had done many years ago about what was the #1 issue in the city, and it was our lakes and the success and continued water quality of our lakes. So the Sustainability Board thought the Seminole County ordinance was a workaround. So we maybe when we have time, and I don't know how much, we probably have several months if we're going to really wait till next year. If we could at least have our city attorney take a look at what Seminole County was proposing and point out the flaws and advantages, disadvantages of considering that. I think that might be a next step, since we got some time to take a look at this.
Okay, and Mark, let me just ask, if I can, who did you all, I know you can't speak to the entire board and all their thoughts, but who would you have seen as likely defendants in a lawsuit that you had bring?
I think the way Seminole County would be an individual, just like an individual, but as Cliff said, it eliminates the standing issue. It makes anybody who doesn't like, as Vance talked about, that thinks it's a pollution issue, I think that's the risk, is that anybody could challenge an environmental issue.
But who are they challenging? Is my question. Is it government officials? So somebody doing their job at the city of Maitland issues a permit in their professional discretion. They think that it's a permit to allow the weed killer on the lake. Is Is that a bulletproof decision, or is that something that you can see?
I would look to the lawyer to help us make that bulletproof.
Yeah, no, I guess, I mean, just from a public policy perspective, do you think that people on the sustainability board are really more concerned about governmental permits, or are they concerned about midnight dumping? Are they concerned about,
I think the issue is midnight dumping and maybe, I want to say, policy from DEP or Water Management District that maybe is not in conscience with what your citizens would like to see. So I think it gives citizens more rights than they have had in the past. Having an 89% approval rate tells me that it's struck a nerve to the citizens and whether Orange County is defensible or not. I think the Seminole County one makes an attempt to cure that. So I would really like to see what Cliff has to say about that language.
Are we
Yeah,
having
go
a
ahead.
discussion?
Yes.
I mean, is there a rush if we can't wait and see how Seminole shakes out in the wash before we?
I think Seminole got cold feet too. So they kicked the can on this.
So you want us to pick it up instead of dropping it?
I'd like to see Maitland take the initiative. And I'd like to see Maitland put its name out, and if they can find something that I don't want to say is symbolic, but I think it puts your name on the map of concern about the environment.
I think it is symbolic, and I think it's good in that way, because I'm on the lakes all the time. I just, as a practical matter, the implementation, we're talking about who can get sued now. If this thing passed, we would sure find out when some creative lawyers decide to start suing people. But it's just, there are, and I covered the environment for years and years, and people could use challenges and stuff to knock something. They could challenge something on the Endangered Species Act, whereas they could care less about it. They just want to stop this development next to their neighborhood. So it's just, I don't see us as having the resources or the heft to lead the charge on this. I don't, if Seminole County is backing off, that kind of tells me something with Lee Constantine and the people they have over there. They're hardly bashful about taking on development as some folks found out there out east. So I just don't see the urgency or why to jump into this now and start incurring costs when it's up in the air and to our big brothers to the north and south.
So I can see another way we can get sued on our land development code. We permit houseboats. If somebody on the lake bought a houseboat and they went to stay on the houseboat and live on the houseboat, I mean, could I sue the city for that being on the land development code? Because I feel like, say there's sewage or something that falls from the houseboat into the lake. And you're giving it, the city's given the right to do this. Can I sue the city and the person who owns the boat? So, that's in our land development code.
I would say to table this until at least April.
We know why that's funny.
Again, I'm kind of, whatever you guys want, I'm good with these things, but I just don't see, that this is cooked enough. And also worry about the unintended consequences of, I could see that Lake Gem project, but I think it's a good project. Somebody who doesn't like it can just sue to, could care less about the lake, just stop the project. So anyway, or you could, almost any project you want to build, you could get into the stormwater plans and say it's going to have an impact on the water body. So anyway, I would just let this cook for a while in Orange and Seminole County before we start spending money on
Okay. Yeah, well, I think, the reason I was asking the questions was because, I don't think we can judge what we want to do by what Orange County's done or what Seminole County's done. I mean, if you want to have an ordinance that would subject governmental decision-making to lawsuits by citizens who are looking to go up the works for no good reason, I mean, you can draft around that. You can say, it's an easy fix to say there's no remedy against a governmental action that's been taken in good faith. I mean, that takes care of that right there. But my question to Mark was, are you worried more about midnight dumpers, people who are going out there doing bad things, or are you trying to get in to throw, grist in the cogs of the government machinery? I mean, if it's B, and you're looking to put governmental actions on the line, then that's not something I'm interested in. But my question was really about, if a city, let's call it Maitland, were to pass an ordinance that looks something like the Seminole County one, and it looks like your office weighed in on the Seminole County model, and then stood back and let everybody go at it, is there a penalty for even just setting up that? Or is it really, when plaintiff A brings a case against midnight number B and Maitland's not involved?
Well, when you say a penalty, there's all kinds of ways to look at that phrase. Penalties can also be in terms of lawsuits challenging the action, lawsuits to keep it off the ballot, lawsuits to challenge its efficacy once it's on the ballot and passed. So if you mean by penalties those things, then yeah, all of those things are in the mix. But if you mean by that the state of Florida can come after you for violating preemption, well, that is also in the mix. Because if they believe it was preempted, or if they subsequently preempted, and you continue to go forward, you can pretty much guarantee, particularly with the current governance in Tallahassee, that you will be on the wrong end of a lawsuit from which the person, the party on the other side will be the Attorney General's office. They have shown zero restraint in pursuing what are clearly political issues in that office. 100%. That is a guarantee. It doesn't matter what your politics are, that's just the reality. And so, so if you mean by that a penalty, yeah. And to be clear, so that there's no misunderstanding, at least of the Orange County's intention, because I was in every single meeting of that body, that subcommittee. 100% the target was the Orange County Board of Commissioners. Everything else was collateral. They were going after the commission for decisions regarding that they deemed to be pro-development, and that's the situation. And I don't know what the story is in Seminole County about why they stopped doing what they were doing, but if you consider the ongoing battle that has been had in Seminole County over that one development, the name of which escapes me right now, but that apparently would impact the economy, and how much of the back and forth and how much of the politics has revolved around that specific development. I suspicion that that's why they said, no, we don't know how this is seen. Every election, we get different leadership. Who knows how it's going to go? And we don't want to get sued just because we're over here doing what we're supposed to be doing. I think that'd be my guess.
Okay. Well, this is a discussion item, so we're not taking a decision on this tonight. But I don't know. Have you all discussed enough? Do we feel good discussed on this? Or?
So would it be helpful then, when we meet in February, for the board to have a discussion of what they intend, what they envision? Because it does say governmental agency, of which we are one. So unless we are exempting ourselves and not other governmental agencies, an action could be brought against the city. Now, we didn't get to the ordinance drafting, but we could talk about what that might look like, if that'd be helpful to have more detail.
From the sustainability board?
Yeah.
I'd like to propose something add on to that a little bit, is I would add on a little workshop between sustainability and Lakes Advisory Board. I mean, you have two great, boards there that can work together to do this. I mean,
I think Sharon, part of the issue though is that February, I think, sounds like it's premature. I think that based on everything, I think this thing plays out before we really want to weigh in. And I don't know that we want to be the trendsetter. I don't think. I mean,
No, I do not.
I I mean, I think because this is already seemingly heated and there's already ongoing litigation on this, I think it's maybe something we should learn from it more than trying to be what people learn off of. That makes sense.
Yeah, but although I do think it's at the same time, I mean, Sustainability Board will hear perhaps in some form what our discussion was about, but I'd like to hear from them more particularly. You know, I got the letter that we all did, and what actions in particular they are. I mean, everybody's for clean water, I think, and you know that's a a right-minded goal. But is the goal to challenge governmental actions, specifically Maitland governmental actions in permitting, or is it really is there something else that's going on that we need to know about, or that they're concerned about? And is there some other way, or any good ways to protect our water quality? That's what
I hope we're doing a good job of protecting water quality as it is, but.
I would just ask, and I understand where you're coming from, John, and I agree with you, but if we do see, a chance to write something up and to come up with something, I would ask definitely that we do a workshop between LAB and sustainability. I think, they kind of cross over there, so it would be helpful when the time comes.
There's issues of midnight dumping, whatever that phrase entails. Anything that would rise to a lawsuit level would seem to be at a code enforcement level, or we're not code enforcing that stuff.
Well,
DEP would.
You've got midnight dumping, you've got criminal.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and one of the things that we had.
That's why I don't see who.
Yeah, we had multiple discussions, said, look, a lot of what you're concerned about is already criminal.
Yeah.
So that's why I know with certainty, the focus was on permitting, because it was not about the obvious criminal who is taking, dredging illegally, or dumping chemical substances, or poisoning the water. All of those things are already illegal. The federal, you go to jail for that stuff.
Yeah.
It was literally about stopping development, and this was a tool to do it by being able to claim, perhaps accurately, that certain development would impact in a bad way the water. I don't disagree with any of those things that is possible, and that's why the focus came from us. How measured to what standard, and what is the correction? If you're going to ask a judge, fix this, what do you tell them to fix it by doing? And so if you can't, and as I said it multiple times, if you can't tell me as the judge, I want to rule in your favor, I agree with you, how do I fix it? If you can't tell me, you can't win. And so ultimately, that's the kind of the overarching question, and why I know the focus was on going after government. But at the end of the day, I don't have a problem going after government, notwithstanding that I love you guys and I work for you. That's not the issue. It's that you have to have a path that legally can be sustained, or else you're taking a fool's errand. That's the issue.
There's one more aspect to that of your the memo from your office. It said, it reviewed the Seminole County model ordinance. So there's certain ways that you could avoid the problems, the obvious problems that Seminole County run into. And one of them was to set it up as a key TAM action.
Yes.
So, and I hadn't thought about that in terms of a local government. I never thought about it in terms of the state and federal government. And that would be something I don't want to drag down our legal rat hole tonight. But I mean, the basis of that is if the government's been defrauded somehow, or if the government's not doing its job, a person could have standing to come in and do the government's job. Yes. I just hadn't seen that in a local government context. So, if that is something that people could do, that they say, hey, somebody pulled the hood over Maitland's eyes, or Maitland was asleep at the switch, or Maitland was not doing his job, I'm going to do it for them. I mean, in a local government permitting scenario, I'm having trouble figuring out how that
Is
works.
that in our chapter 129 hearing, or how
No,
does that?
If I can, those are words that the lawyers understand a little bit, but another way to look at it is quote unquote private attorneys general, right? So if a military contractor, let's say, vastly overspends their contract by what appears to be government wanton waste, those are things where you see this happen more frequently. Somebody can come in, find the problem. First, they have to take it to the government and say, hey, we've identified a problem here, they've overspent, you need to go back and get the money. The government says, I'm not going to do it. And when they say that, if you have some reason enough in your case, you then can, under certain circumstances, put yourselves in the shoes, but where instead of you representing the water body, where I'm like a Apopka, I'm now the Maitland Council doing what the Maitland Council should have done, because I've proven to them waste in a contract they entered into, and I'm going after the waster, and I'm going to get that money back, and as a result, I'm going to get a part of the fee for doing that. So it's a private attorney general as a concept. It doesn't seem to work as well in local government, at least from the models that I'm aware of, than it does in where you have these massive waste situations in government contracts at the federal level, particularly military contracts. But that's the concept.
It's probably because of the amount of money involved, I imagine.
Yeah.
See, I kind of saw it, how John was talking about it. So, if I'm somebody and I live on a lake and a developer comes in and said he's going to do this work and he's going to do renourishment and all this, and it doesn't get complete, and you don't feel like the city's not going far enough, then maybe that's something you can do, or you can go back to that car dealer who should be capturing that water. So, it's something that, if it's a car dealer that's been around forever and it's grandfathered in, that's something the city's tied its hands, but if I could do it, or a group could do it, it would be good, but then to where you're talking about, then it can get out of control. So, that's how I was thinking, like John was saying. Not really about, suing the city for spraying a lake or a park.
Well, so to kind of wrap it up, I think everybody kind of saying, and I would be interested in kind of monitoring as it goes ahead, at least interested in hearing more from the sustainability board about what types of actions they would like to see restricted. With more particularity, because the details matter. This would be, it's kind of unstable ground. We don't want to take a bad step, so I would be interested to find out what exactly is motivating that and see if we can accommodate it somehow. And as we said earlier, this is not going to the ballot in March. This March, it might go next March, but so we can have time to kind of see what's going on with Orange County litigation and see what Seminole County does. Anybody else have any thoughts on it? Okay, great. Reports. Mr. City Attorney. We had a
Briefly, in fact, I didn't even realize until I had a question from the mayor that I had not told you all this. But some of you will remember and others of you won't, but I'll remind you that the last action in the Peacock Board matter was that they had gotten, we got their initial or second amendment complaint dismissed, I think it was. And they then moved to transfer the entire case to the complex business court, which we opposed for a lot of reasons. And the court has a process by which not even the judge that sits on the case gets to make a decision. The administrative judge makes the decision, and he looked at their arguments and ours, and he denied the motion to transfer. So ostensibly, we were going to stay in the civil division, and previous to an order that we got just about 5 or 6 days ago with the same judge who had initially granted the motion to dismiss. But subsequent to that granting of, or our motion to dismiss, and the denial of their motion to transfer to business court, we got notice of what sometimes happens this time of year, that notwithstanding that, our case has been transferred not to business court, but to a different judge. Chin, I think. Okay, I don't know him, haven't been in front of him, but I have no issues because we're right on the law. They did prepare and file just last week an amended complaint, and they brought, for our purposes, only one arguably relevant new allegation, which we believe is going to get them dismissed again. They probably disagree, but they disagree with everything I've said so far, so that's what lawyers do, they get paid to disagree. But so far, I'm on the right side of those arguments, and I think we'll be right on the right side again. I will say this, because if they ever listen to this, perhaps it'll ever sleep in. I do not know what they think they get out of this lawsuit, than what we would be willing, if the opportunity presented itself, to talk to them about what it is their actual needs are. I don't know. I do not get it. But you can rest assured that I have conveyed to them in the strongest way possible that if they ever want to talk about reasonable solutions to the problems, which at least I think the mayor is aware of, that I thought were the actual issues, we'd be more than willing to listen. But so far, with no real explanation, they just want what they want. And that's all I can tell you.
Okay, so you've got a new judge to educate.
And we still have a strong case for legal fees.
We have a case because Bert Harris has prevailing party legal fees. They brought 3 or 4 other counts, but they're all kind of tied to the same kind of stuff, and we should win all of them. We should.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Attorney. City Manager?
Just one item for the first meeting in February. It happens to be Valentine's Day. Councilman Guthrie wanted to put on the agenda for the next meeting to consider canceling that meeting. I'll let you take it away.
Oh, it's February 14th, it's Valentine's Day. Everybody on council's married, and I know, my wife likes it to spend that day together and, do a nice dinner and have a nice day and take a walk and spend time together. So I didn't know if you guys would want to entertain just moving it or just push it back to 2 weeks, or I don't care if it's on the 15th or the 13th.
Okay.
I just have a question about that. Don't we already have stuff like the land development code noticed and published for that date?
It has not yet made it out of planning and zoning, but that was the intended, that's the schedule. Yeah, so 2/14 and then 2/20.
I don't want to put off land development.
Did you take her to dinner on Sunday, Vance?
Yeah.
What? Oh, take her to dinner on Sunday?
Well, so we're going to consider this as next.
Yeah, I'll put it on the agenda, then we'll give you all time to think about it, and,
It's like 20% of my remaining time here on council. I would like to weigh in on the land development code. So
Can you bring your wife to the meeting?
we could have them all there and give them a proclamation.
Can we just bring our wives and husbands and y'all in the city provide flowers and candies to them on,
Yeah, that would work.
Is there free babysitting at home as well? Because
Yeah.
otherwise,
All right, so that's an item that
yeah.
we will more thoroughly explore at the next meeting. But
It'll be a decision item, and then we'll give you all the items that are coming. We do have a lot of stuff coming up, so it does impact
Right.
scheduling.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Sharon?
No.
Anybody else on council?
I just want to give a compliment to the city staff for the get down on Friday night. It was fabulous. It was really nice to see everybody out, and the music was great, and there were lots of new vendors who showed up, and we had a wonderful time. And then on Sunday, the farmers market was so busy. It was fantastic. There were people everywhere. We were there first thing in the morning, and we stayed till 11:30, and it was still busy. So I'm just really pleased with how the reception for the new relocation of the farmers market's gone, with everybody, including the vendors, who seem very, very happy with it. So
Yeah, I always see people at their booths. It's working well.
Councilman Wild? Anything?
Yeah, for your first meeting.
Yeah, congratulations.
Lauren, anything to report? How's it going so far?
Wonderful.
Good,
We're
excellent.
settling in, and we're loving it. We hit the downtown, get down Friday night. We hit the farmers market in Winter Park and here on Sunday, so we're loving everything there is to offer.
We don't go to the winter
Sorry.
You can go to the one in Winter Garden on Saturday. I thought it was okay, they're on separate days, we can both have them. I didn't spend any money at the Winter Park when I was there.
He's just got to introduce the store spot number
Take
one.
that money for Winter Garden, that's to my neighbors, you're good.
I have one quick question. For the volunteer appreciation, is there gonna be like an outside venue? We're gonna have a tent or
So
something for?
we looked at the Rotary Plaza, Lori, Maria and I, and it is a nice spot, so I think we're just gonna try to move it outside and keep watching the numbers and then see if we.
volunteer?
It's February 8th.
Yeah, February 8th is Tuesday.
We're currently working on rocket
Oh.
launch.
Right.
I'd like to talk to council about expanding the boundaries of that. That'll be a later date, when there's not a CFP football game.
All right, Vince, anything?
That was it?
Is it, Mike? You
Oh,
good?
hey, Highland game this weekend.
Alright.
Central Winds, yeah, get out there.
All right.
Get your kilt on.
All right, good. We're adjourned.